Let's go.
Oh. Sam, thanks for being here, man. So let's start off easy. I guess,
Yeah.
why don't you give us a little background on who you are, where you're from, and how you ended up in cybersecurity, man?
Yeah, so it's actually been quite a long journey. I've been in IT and cyber. I started officially my journey was the 24th of June 2013. So I started in IT in the military. So
Mm.
before that, I actually didn't have an IT background. Everyone else had a smartphone. I didn't have a smartphone. Everyone else had a laptop. I didn't have a laptop. My way in to get out of my country town, which is Maryborough, Queensland, I looked at getting into the army, and there was a role there called information systems technician. And I
Mhm.
actually wanted to go down a different route, like combat engineers or aviation engineers, but information systems technician was the role that they pushed me into because that's where the demand was. And I was like, okay, look, I've got no other options. Let's just go down this route. So on that 24th of June 2013, that's when I started my journey in the military, and then going through basic training, and then going off to the School of Signals where I learned about computers. Now, everyone else on my course,
Wow.
they had all pulled apart computers. They're all gamers. I still at that point didn't have a laptop. So
Wow. Like you had like zero knowledge around IT
it
and
was
stuff
zero
like that.
knowledge, complete zero knowledge. One of the exams that we do at the School of Signals was pull apart a computer, and then like if there's certain errors um, on the computer, like how are you going to diagnose it? So like you have like a computer with an error, then they show you the motherboard.
Hmm.
So you really start from the bare basics, and then we moved into like doing the Cisco certified network associate
Ah, okay.
modules. We didn't do the exam, but we did
The
all the
content.
training modules. So we went through that. We looked at Windows Server Administration. We looked at a product called Lotus Notes, which is like a databasing platform, and a few other areas. So that was my introduction into IT. I was very much the person on the in the course that was standing out, and people were saying, "Why are you here?" And really, the driver for me was to get a better life. So that was what the main driver was, to get into IT and well, get into the army, but really IT was a skill that I picked up. So sort of through that journey of being in the military around, I think it was around 2017, 2018. That's where like cybersecurity was starting to get like the
Hmm.
buzzword was sort of coming out in the industry. Now, I think before that, like a lot of system administrators were doing like cybersecurity stuff. So identity and management, which is a core sort of domain of cyber, that was a function that we did. Asset security was a function that we did. There's been like if there was like a data spill or malware, we had to have a response plan. So just being system administrators, we already had some of those functions. So seeing that was the new buzz in the market around that time, I started framing my lens around, okay, well, I've got to sort of position myself to get into cyber
Hmm.
because that's where the demand is going to be. Now, sort of through that journey and just having interest in cyber, just having like a high level vision that I needed to get in, that allowed me to effectively like have the right discussions with people, like and let people know that I was interested in this, and it resulted in a conversation that I had with someone that I met on a military exercise about this thing called an IRAP assessor. So I had
Oh.
no idea what IRAP assessments were. So it's the InfoSec Registered Assessors Program, owned by federal government department.
And that's the thing
As
in Australia, right? Like it doesn't
Yeah,
apply
it's an
to the
Australian
US.
thing. So
Yeah.
like for quick context, it's effectively a if you're operating a government system, they have to be secured using the Information Security Manual. And IRAP assessors are independent auditors to provide assurance to system owners that they have controls implemented and operating effectively. So it was mentioned that this league of people, they're making a lot of money in contracting. So and then but to become an IRAP assessor, you needed to pass CISSP, and you needed
Mm.
like C risk or CISA before you even do the course. Um, and it was mentioned to me that CISSP is really hard. I know a lot of people that are technical that really can't pass the exam, but I made it my mission that I wanted that. I wanted that IRAP assessor role, and it just so happened that I actually enjoy doing security assessments. So I still got the book. I made a mandate that I was gonna
That's good,
pass
man.
CISSP. I was actually talking to one of my mentees last night or the night before about CISSP, so I just happened to have it. But I made it my mission to pass. I didn't pass it the first time. I passed it the second time. So during that journey, while I was studying cyber, I started a business while I was in the military called Cybeasy. So I didn't really go too well. I got in with a bunch of friends.
Hmm.
They did no work, and I just basically had to dissolve the company at that point. So I then joined another company called Digital Shield. So that was led by a man in Darwin. I came on as a general manager, still while I was in the military at 27. So as I was in the military, working full time and then part time in a startup, and that was giving me exposure to doing security assessments and stuff like that. So working for a startup was like my way in to cyber. I was doing a lot of sort of like free work for equity or sweat
Yeah.
equity to earn a buy-in. So I then left the military and worked full time with the startup. And this is where it became quite interesting because I'd left the military and I actually had no income. I was working for the startup and I had zero income.
Wow.
And I was in the Sunshine Coast and he was in Darwin and we needed money. So, and I needed to, I had to get money from somewhere. I had to start building a bit of a brand presence. So, the way that I did that was through doing IT audits. So
Mhm.
I through my through this company, and then also subcontracting through Geeks to You. So they're so Gigs to You is like effectively like IT subcontracting. So what I did was when I'd go to like people's houses and I'd fix their IT problems, or I'd go to businesses and fix their IT problems, I would then, if I finished early, I would spend the last 15 minutes doing cyber awareness and providing not just the IT operational aspect, but also the cyber awareness. Because sometimes you go in and they'd have no like filters at all applied on their
Yeah.
firewall. They would have just really bad sort of cyber hygiene. So that's how I started getting experience was going out there and engaging with businesses and doing subcontracting with Gigs to You to start building up experience on my CV. At the same time, I was doing that. I was also building my own home lab. I had a next gen firewall. I had a Dell. Um, I think it was a R7320, or it's basically like a giant tower that I ran a VMware ESXi hypervisor,
Hmm.
ESXi host rather, Type 1 hypervisor in my house, and I was just building my own lab and just getting skills that I was then putting on my CV because at the same time I was applying for government contracts through the company. So over time I wanted to build up that, like, I was getting certifications with my CISSP, I was getting real world experience, and I was building my own skills
So it was all
at home.
happening at the same time, like
It was all
getting
happening at the
the
same time, and I had
CISSP
hardly any income
exam,
coming in.
everything. Wow.
And I was living with my now wife, but I had hardly any income coming in, so the financial stress was
Yeah,
quite
man.
large. And I think personally as a man, I didn't really feel all that much like a man because
Yeah,
I
man.
wasn't bringing home the bacon. So um, I wasn't bringing home a lot of bacon, I should say. But so anyway, through that journey, I eventually won a contract, and on the phone interview, they asked what experience do I have, and what I did was I just listed everything that I said that I was doing. Here's a lab that I built. I got a next gen firewall. I've tested, I was doing like I was getting like on GitHub, getting like malware from GitHub,
Mhm.
building my own ransomware sort of things. I was testing the next gen firewall, all of this sort of stuff I was putting on my CV. So I was building my own sort of scenarios.
So
Um,
for this role, was it a technical role or was it something else like a
the one that I
assessment?
won, the
Yeah.
contract that I won, yeah,
Yeah.
it was a technical role. It was a incident response lead
Ah,
role
okay.
for a large federal government client, and you could imagine I left the military. I'd sort of done some little subcontract, and all of a sudden I'm a lead uh, person solving enterprise issues in incident management.
Uh,
So
uh, and that's fine, man, because I always tell this to other people. Like when you have that experience, like real world experience, it doesn't matter where you get it, like from lab, from any other
yeah,
training platform, and companies, when they need qualified people, they see that. In
yeah,
that case, you had the experience and you had the knowledge, and they
and the
saw you
ability to
as a
learn.
valuable, yeah, as a valuable person.
Yeah, so I think one of the big things is like, well, if Sam's doing all this in his spare time, like then we know that he's got like a high sort of like a lot of passion for it. So
Yeah.
what I made as my mandate was that like, well, I may not have expertise or experience in this particular thing that you're trying to solve, but I will guarantee that I'll be the first one in and the last one to leave, and I will get up to speed, whatever you need. And it really, the project that the area that I was a lead for, the issues were major enterprise problems that I was solving. Major, like I had no background in the area that I was solving. I had knowledge of cyber stuff from the certifications that I had done. I had experience and exposure to different types of technologies, but nothing like this. So I think what you need to be prepared for is that when you're going into cyber, and especially if you're looking to become a professional, to just be very adaptive to the environment that you're going into, because sometimes you won't have experience or exposure to what that is, but
Hmm.
it's the ability to know how to problem solve and to be a good problem solver and to be positive and to maintain momentum. That is what people are looking for in a cybersecurity professional, because things haven't gone well. They're looking for leadership and direction, to make sure that everything's going to be okay and all back to normal.
Yeah.
So, especially like a defensive sort of role. So, from there, I had a lot of success. I then eventually got my IRAP. I then left the company that the startup that I had started with, and I started my own company, Cornerstone Technology Solutions, and I was subcontracting doing IRAP assessments. And once again, had no background in doing an IRAP assessment until you do one. But now I was a lead, and I had consultants underneath me for a major gateway platform and data warehouse system. So, and I
Hmm.
was learning how to negotiate rates. I had to sort out my own company. Like, what does it mean to be a director? um, and then also lead people in an area that I really didn't have any experience in. So once again, it's the first one in, the last one to leave. So as long as I'm there and I've got the right questions to ask, and I own it and I have complete ownership of this, it's not trying to palm it off to anyone else. It's filling everyone with confidence. Even if I make a mistake, it's about um, being able to take whatever the situation is and then find the solution and keep moving forward. I think that's what makes a great cyber professional is
Now, I guess most people would say maybe you got lucky. Oh, like this guy had he knew a person that allowed him to get this job. Like for that contracting role that you're talking about right now, as
mm.
inside your business, like how did you get it specifically?
Well,
I
it took
want
me
you
about
just
six
to get
months
into the
of
details. 6 months. Like how did you do it? Was it through referral?
yeah.
Was
Well,
it
it
through
was it was it was applying online.
just applying online? That's it.
Yeah, ringing people up, chasing people, building a social media presence. So there's elements of the hardest one to get is the first.
First,
Once you get
yeah.
the first one, it becomes a lot easier because the cybersecurity community is quite small. So as long as you have a good reputation, and the reputation just comes from having a good work ethic and delivering. That's kind of it. If you can build your brand around delivery, then that alone will take you very far. So that's what I started with, because I didn't have anything else. All I had was work ethic. I had knowledge and whatever, but for the problems that I was dealing with, I didn't have any exposure to them. So the hardest one to get is the first one, but you got to put the reps in, and interviewing in itself is a
It's a
skill.
different, yeah,
So
skill, yeah.
it's all about having a look. So what I do is I apply a SWOT analysis, so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And what you want to do is constantly promote your strengths. Where you have weaknesses, you need to have a counter as to like they might perceive a weakness, but you know that there's a weakness, but here's what you're doing about it to alleviate that. And that sort of in itself is demonstrating that you have a strength of solving problems. So yeah, that's how I got in. And then once I was in, it's a lot easier. So I'm in a multiple different projects, multiple different contracts. I've had a lot of success, not just in government, but now in the commercial space, working as a virtual CISO for a very large firm in delivering for a very large organization in Melbourne. And all of that has just become like all of that has been achieved from
Mhm.
just having a clear vision of what I want and then doing 1% each day. Um, like I remember, like if we go back to the start, I had no IT experience before I started IT. Like I
Yeah.
had none. I had none. I didn't have a smartphone. I didn't know what apps were. I really like, I really wasn't that kind of guy. But now at the point where I'm 32, I'm doing C-suite level executive consulting, and delivering major outcomes for large organizations. And it comes from backing yourself and doing 1% each day.
Yeah, and it wasn't easy, man. Like I always tell this to people, like people think it should be easy, like getting this outcome, cybersecurity. And I always tell these people, hey, if it was easy, everyone else would have
No.
done this already,
Well,
right?
I mean, we spoke before this, like how much do I still have going on in terms of my own self-education,
Hmm.
in terms of cyber? Like I just finished a foundations and a director's course. I'm doing a zero trust certification, and then I'm doing a cyber leadership program, which is my second CISO level certification. So I think if you want it, it's not about the money. Like you have to, the money will come. Like
As a
when I
result of
when I
that.
started, like I had none. I got like when I was realistically speaking, when I started went from IT to cyber, I had no money. I had zero. I had zero money, but the things that generated income wasn't just hoping that I got into cyber. It was having a well-structured roadmap and then sticking to it and then working at 1% each day. And the more that I can increase my value and communicate that, the more money I'm going to make.
Yeah.
Because that's how the market works. So focusing on money is the wrong view. Focusing on how you can improve your value is what's going to translate into more income, and you should be working on that each day because the way that the threat landscape is moving and the way that emerging technology is coming out, you need to remain up to date, because you can get left behind quite quickly. Quite quickly, like I can become
And it's
irrelevant.
happening right now, man. AI and stuff like that's happening right now. Like
Yeah, like with
seriously.
AI, like organizations at the board level are becoming AI literate. Workforces are becoming AI literate the more that they use ChatGPT. So as a cybersecurity professional, if you're not AI literate, you're not really relevant because how are you gonna if you're not literate in the thing that you're trying to manage a
Yeah.
risk for, how are you going to provide the right advice? You can't because they won't understand what you're talking about because you don't have any exposure to the thing that they're using. So
Yeah. So these days you're doing more like advising businesses, VCISO services, assessment, governance, and compliance. Are these the things that you're doing right now, more focused on right now?
yeah, yeah. So I'm more, it's GRC at the moment, so governance, risk,
Hmm.
and compliance. So yeah, you encompass within that is ensuring that the right policies are implemented in organizations from the top down. Risk is being appropriately managed. So when we look at the business case for having cyber in an organization, it comes down to risk. If you can't communicate the risk, then there's no buy-in. So you need to get buy-in for cyber because we know what the threats are, we know what the vulnerabilities are, but the buy-in comes from being able to translate risk into like a financial impact, to a
Yeah.
reputational impact. It could be like a compliance impact. So that's sort of the game with GRC. Compliance comes from the compliance with regulations, but you can also ensure an organization is compliant with its own risk management framework or policies through auditing. So there's a wide array of roles that encompass governance, risk, and compliance. You can be a GRC analyst, you can be an IT auditor, uh, sort of in the area of GRC, like maybe one level above that. That's where you have like the CISO, who's really taking that the governance across the organization, having accountability for cyber in the organization, and sort of setting the strategic plan for how the organization is going to manage risk. Over like a 3-year time horizon, 1-year time horizon, whatever an organization sort of sets. So at a high level, that is effectively GRC, and it sort of works well for me because I like dealing with people. It's very people focused. It's
Mhm.
depending on where you go, like people say it's not really technical. Well, if you're managing risk for like CI/CD pipelines, Kubernetes, or cloud deployments, well, it is quite technical because you need to know how the technology works to
Yeah,
understand
understanding.
how the threats are going to get in. So to provide the right mitigation strategy. So it's not as technical in the sense that like you're not reviewing logs and all of that sort of stuff, but it's a different type of technicality where you're reviewing system diagrams, understanding processes, and then the context of how people interact with the system and what the mission of the system is, and then whether or not risks exist, which can hinder that the ability of that IT investment.
Now, the question is, man, like, I'm really interested to know that. Like, you've done almost everything. Like, you started with basic level IT job back then you
Mm.
got into the technical stuff in cybersecurity, incident response rule. Now you're doing more GRC stuff. If someone wants to start, like, his or her career in GRC, what's the proper roadmap? Because you earlier mentioned that having a roadmap, having a
Yeah.
vision for your career is very important. And the problem is that I see this all the time. People are doing a little bit of GRC, a little bit of
Yeah.
penetration testing, engineering, like they're all over the place. For you, you had a clear roadmap. Like, what would you say to these people?
Yeah, so I think so the roadmap for me was to eventually become an IRAP assessor, and once I became an IRAP assessor, that's where I started. I delivered some IRAP outcomes. I then sort of looked at it like, well, I've done that. Like, I want to move on to the next thing now. So, which is GRC and advisory and all that sort of stuff. So, um, someone that's looking to get into the GRC space is understanding first of all, where are you now in your journey? Do you have like no IT experience? Do you have some IT experience? If you have no IT experience, I say, look, go get some. Don't jump
Mm.
in to the deep
Oh,
end.
so you're not suggesting people to go directly to GRC stuff if they have no IT background?
Well, okay, I ask the question, right? Would you ever go to a doctor that doesn't know how the human body works?
Of course not.
Okay. So with doctors, what do they prescribe? They prescribe preventative medicine. They
Hmm.
can detect through blood tests. You can have recovery mechanisms when things go wrong, like heart attacks. So it's actually not too much different to cybersecurity. We're kind of like the doctors of the IT world. We detect things when things are going wrong, so we can take, blood. This blood's faulty, or these logs are faulty. I can put in prevention through security architecture. Here's where we can architect our environment. I can put in recovery strategies. Something's gone wrong. Doesn't matter. We've got a recovery strategy in place, so it's not going to kill the organization. So there's a very with medicine. There's a very at at a high level, or like using it as an analogy, is a way that makes sense when I'm trying to convey to people. So if you look at it from that perspective, you need to understand how systems work. You need to know how processes
Hmm.
work. If you're like, how does an email client interact with, an operating system, or like, registry, and all of these types of things? Because when you're a SOC analyst and you opened a malicious process, that's what you're going to be detecting for. If you don't know how that works, how are you going to manage the incident well, or be effective? So I think getting into cyber, you need to start with the foundations. You need to get the foundations like sorted first, and then provide the security overlay. Security is an overlay to IT. when a business invests in IT, they don't invest in security. They invest in a capability that's going to achieve a business outcome. Security is managing the business risk of that. So what comes first? Well, I have an objective that I want to hit for my organization. I'm going to invest in this IT because it's going to allow me to realize that. Security comes in and is like, well, yeah, you can do that, but we also need to manage this risk. So understanding how systems work, understanding how networks work as well is probably the most, I shouldn't say it's the most important, but it's very critical to understand the OSI model, the Open Systems Interconnect model, and how computers talk to each other, because that really is what sort of sets up the vectors for attackers to get in. They get in lateral movement, they get in
Yeah.
through public facing. So if you don't understand how that works, like how are you going to provide security advice, or how are you going to understand what the threats are, or how are you going to know what the vulnerabilities are? Because vulnerabilities, realistically speaking, is kind of like an IT job. It's features on and off. Is a system patched? Yes or no? Do you have, is it misconfigured? So all that configuration stuff is really like, it's more IT. Understanding where the threats are. That's really where the cyber
Comes
area is,
in.
and knowing where to look in the IT is like sort of like a marriage of both, which is why you need to work with IT people to figure out where the problems are. So once again, if you don't have that IT background, you will face what people call imposter syndrome. They go, "I feel like an imposter because I
I still do, man, to this day.
yeah, I think it's a trait. I think it's a trait that we have because, like psychologically speaking, we look for problems. That's our
Mhm.
job. Our job is to look for problems. If you boil it down, we look for problems in IT. If we don't, if
Yeah.
our metric of success is I've found this many problems. So
Yeah.
what do we do when we look in the mirror? Well, I'll look at all these problems. Sam, you don't know enough. What about all these gaps? So that's why we really, like, you look at cyber people that look like they're burnt out, is because we're trying to remain up to date to make sure that we're managing our own vulnerabilities. Um, so just circling back, I forget what we were talking about.
Yeah, like that's the thing. I want to add something on that topic. I
Oh,
mean,
imposter syndrome. Imposter
imposter
syndrome. I think we
syndrome,
need to
and
we,
and
we need
also
to
this
talk.
part where we talked about that, like having an IT background. I mean, yeah, I totally agree with you on that. But don't you feel like people can get that? Like, do you really think that someone needs to get an IT help desk job to get into
Um,
cyber?
you,
Because
you
I
don't
feel
need.
like there's
Yeah.
some gatekeeping going on in the industry. To be
You,
honest with
you,
you.
you don't need to have an IT help desk job, but you need to understand IT.
Exactly.
I, you need to understand how data flows work in systems, because one of the areas that of where doesn't matter where you're working is being able to apply a threat model to data flows. So you need to understand how systems work.
Yeah.
Full stop. If you're getting into GRC, you need to know how systems work and how systems talk to each other, and with the ability to build data flow diagrams. So
Yeah.
you need that. Without that, like, I would not hire you. Like, if you have not made a
Of
commitment
course.
to even starting to learn down that path, um, yeah, you should really start with that. Once you get a grasp of how data flows work, and then going down the path of understanding how to apply threat models. So the why I say understanding having an understanding of IT is because when you're building data flow diagrams, you need to understand how networks work, because you're dealing with system architecture. So if you don't understand data flows, you don't understand system architecture, you will not be able to provide the right advice. You'll take a
Yeah.
compliance-based approach, you'll take a framework, and you go, yeah, just implement this, which is a very bad way of implementing security. So once you've got the knowledge, you then need to start building the skills. So what skills do you have to do an IT audit? What skills do you have to write a policy? What skills do you have for cyber awareness? What experience do you have? You can get both of those at the same time using the same methodology that I had in going out and providing pro bono services to organizations. But you need to
Oh,
start with the
okay.
knowledge. If you don't have the knowledge component, then you will feel imposter syndrome, because I hate to tell you this, you are an imposter. You are someone that has no idea what you're talking about. You're not in an
Mhm.
imposter syndrome. If imposter syndrome comes from when qualified people like you and I feel like an imposter, despite the fact that we've got many of years of experience doing that. Someone that's coming from no experience, no skills, and no knowledge into cyber, and they go, I've got imposter syndrome. No, you don't. You are an imposter. I hate to tell you this, but you are
And
an imposter because
and
I
they're
would
lying
not
to
go
themselves as well.
because someone's paying a lot of money for you and you haven't done any of the work to earn that income. And you're probably providing the wrong advice to a business. So I wouldn't go to a doctor that isn't qualified or doesn't have experience or doesn't have skills insight or knowledge in the area of domain. Why would I pay money for that? It's no different to cybersecurity. Now, there's a big thing with professionalization going on in the industry, but I fundamentally think I really dislike people when they say, I felt like I have imposter syndrome. It's a real thing. I got into cyber, but you actually don't have any experience. You don't have any knowledge. You don't have really any skills in cyber. I say that you are an imposter and you actually should feel that way because, yeah, and you're going to get crumpled by people like me that expect you to have at least at minimum, foundational level of knowledge and know where to Google. Because that's the
Yeah,
biggest
Google.
skill that
That's another skill.
the biggest skill that you have is knowing where to Google. Even now, it's like knowing how to chat GPT.
Sorry about the Google.
That's all right. So, so, so that's when you start building your own skills, you start building your own experience, you start writing a couple of policies that get adopted, and then you start hearing praise from organizations like Sam, this was great. You know, you've helped us so much. This is where the confidence comes in. You don't just start to feel like an imposter anymore when you're going for job interviews because you've already started doing the work and you've got a list of testimonials to back it up. So this is where you feel like less of an imposter because you're now building a nice portfolio of things that you're delivering. And when you go to your interview, all you're doing is repeating the things that you've done. If they decide to hire you, then that's great. Leave it up to them.
Mhm.
The thing that you have control over is what are you doing each day to build up that portfolio and your knowledge and your experience and your skills. Like we've both said, we've been doing this. I've been doing this for almost 2013, so almost 12 years now. I'm still studying. I'm still studying.
Never ends, man. It never ends.
So when does it end?
Now,
When I get this certification, will I get into cyber? Why are you stopping at one? I
yeah,
needed to get
exactly.
two before I landed my first thing, and then I needed to get IRAP to go to the next level, and then I got like another seven after that.
Yeah, it never ends, man. Now, that's the thing. This is my question. People, I think, have the same question right now watching this video. So they say, okay, I have the foundation. I want to get into GRC. And with GRC,
Yeah.
we have all these frameworks, essential aid. Like, so do they need to learn those topics, or is there something else that they need to do to
It
gain these
depends. It
skills? Like,
depends
how
on where
they gain
you're.
these skills? That's the
Yep.
problem.
So it depends on where you want to work. So if you're looking to get into government, you have to brush up on the PSPF and you have to brush up on the ISM, two frameworks that government departments use for security. So you need to be have a level of understanding of the types of words or vernacular that's included within that, because that's what your interview board is. They're going to be thinking about that if you're going for a GRC role. There are NIST frameworks. NIST is another framework that a lot of organizations model their risk management framework off. So getting up to speed with that is quite helpful. They actually have a way of assessing risk. I think it's NIST 800 37 or NIST 800 137. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's one of those two. But they have a framework that organize you can use right now to implement like a risk management framework in an organization for cyber risk. So they've got the cybersecurity framework as well. So using profiles. So there's a lot of open source information that exists that you can start with. I think also the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, they have a lot of publications like it's like I think it's like scenario in a box and how guidance for small businesses. So they have a lot of free information out there that you can use as part of your toolkit to once again start building up some experience. Because if you're solving real business problems, you're no longer a person looking to get into cybersecurity. You're now a junior cybersecurity professional. If you've delivered an outcome and you've helped them implement MFA and increase their password policy and any of those common sort of issues that organizations are facing from a cybersecurity posture perspective, then you're now a junior cybersecurity professional. You're no longer a person waiting to get in. So the more you do it, the better you're going to get, the more confident you're going to be and the more confident you're going to be when you go to sit a job interview.
So, in a nutshell, they have to go through all these frameworks. They have to get themselves familiarized with all these topics, and that's it, right? And they have to just go there, deliver free projects, like work for free for some
Yeah,
small,
pro
medium
bono.
businesses to get experience. That's it.
One of the questions that you can always ask is, what is keeping you awake at night? Just ask them. Because if they've engaged with you, it means they're interested in something. There's something that cybersecurity is a real concern in our organization. Why? If your organization got attacked, what would be the number one thing that you would go, this cannot leak, or this cannot go down, or this cannot be tampered with?
Yeah.
And then they'll
People
tell you.
forget
And
that it's business at the end of the day. Like you're
yeah,
dealing with a business.
yeah. And just think about it in the CIA triad. Go, what is keeping you awake at night? And they'll tell you, oh, we have this. So, okay, if I secure that in the way that you want, will I achieve an objective for your business? And they'll say yes. Okay. And that's a win, right? Because that's a key priority. So don't try to boil the ocean and do everything. Just focus on top three things. Top three. What's the top three? Three things that they cannot, if that goes down, like it could be the fact that they've got like an old server sitting in a corner that the biggest risk at the moment is if it fails and there's no parts, then they lose all their data, all their customer information. Cool. So you implement a backup strategy, or if they get hit with ransomware and encrypts the entire drive and they don't have backups. So that's a win. You've implemented, a way of recovering data. So you have like an offline backup.
Hmm.
So that's a cybersecurity outcome for a business. So don't overcomplicate it. Small businesses are one of the hardest hit areas in Australia, and they're the ones that suffer the most amount of loss because they're looking at starting off, building a reputation is everything. They suffer a security incident where a bunch of private information leaks. That can cause all that work to go belly up. So
And they love someone to get in there and help them with cybersecurity.
yeah,
And
you need
that's the best
experience.
way to gain
They
experience in
need
my
a
opinion.
cyber outcome. So work together on this. And yes, do pro bono for a little bit. You're not going to earn a lot of money. You might actually find if you do such a good job, uh, they'll end up paying you. I did that. I said, oh,
Hmm.
I remember I did it for a GP clinic in Sunshine Coast, and I said, look, this is my first one, whatever. But I put so much effort into the report and the findings that he's like, I have to pay you. Like I have to. Like this, you
Wow.
can't. So me getting paid by someone for doing something that I didn't think was worth much demonstrates that there's value in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm now a junior cybersecurity professional and I'm delivering outcomes. So you can do the same thing, but once again, before you start, you need to know at least foundational level of knowledge of IT and then understanding foundational level of security principles. You need to know what CIA is, CIA triad. I'm not going to tell you what it is on this. You need to go Google it yourself. You need to know at least something about the protective, detective, and recovery mechanisms that would exist in like a simple sort of environment. So, and like you can learn on the job. So the benefit of sort of not waiting until you become a complete expert is the fact that if you're doing pro bono, and you understand that, organizations need MFA, you understand that password policies, also like DMARC, email, security is a big thing at the moment. And, a lot of these areas, there's tools that you can run, open source tools that you can run to check these sort of things. They don't know that. They don't know what you know. So
Yeah.
don't be selfish, share your knowledge and help someone in return for a testimonial and a referral.
Man, that's amazing, Sam. Like that's the most valuable thing I think I've heard. the last month. Like people can easily get experience like that. They don't have to apply for jobs to get interviews, all that sort of stuff. They
Yep.
can easily get an experience. And next time they're applying for jobs, because of that experience, guess what happens? They get preferred to other people who don't have the experience. That was amazing, man.
100,
Now,
100%.
so Sam, what does a typical day look like in a GRC role?
So it always starts with checking your emails. Some things may have happened since you've last checked your emails. So the name of the game is prioritization. Because if you're working as a security advisor, there might be 100 things that you need to solve, but you obviously can't solve 100 problems. So checking your emails, flagging what's the priority, and then starting from there. And if you're working in an enterprise organization that's using multiple different types of technologies, I can tell you what it does involve is plenty of meetings. You need to really like get a firm understanding because someone's coming to you with a security problem, especially as a security advisor, about something. And it can be random, it could be email based, it could be like a Kubernetes type thing, it could be like a proxy thing, it could be multiple different things. So just being able to understand exactly what the problem statement is, and then also leveraging other people in the organization that may have exposure to the background of this, or like maybe there might be a bit more of an expert in these areas, but then sort of taking all that information and then providing that as an outcome in terms of security assessment type stuff. If I'm doing like risk assessments, there's generally like a lot of meetings with technical stakeholders, preparing presentations, writing up reports, working with executives. So it's sort of translating between executive and technical, because like you need to know what the technical is. You also need to know what the business outcome is. So being able to sort of play both sides of the fence, in that respect. In other areas, like I might be running like a workshop or a working group to solve like a particular type of problem with multiple different stakeholders, depending on whether or not I'm coming up with a strategy moving forwards for a particular type of technology, or if I'm building an organizational level cybersecurity strategy
Mm,
in my VCISO consultancy work. It's a different lens as well. We're looking at um, you know, like where are we going to finance some of our security objectives? Do these make sense? Really trying to understand like from like an operational perspective, from a financial perspective, from a legal perspective, and then from like a business strategy from a CEO sort of perspective, like what are the key areas that they're concerned about, and then ensuring that the strategy that we're putting forward is aligned, and then also then monitoring as well. So how well are we doing? What's our KPIs? So what's our success criteria? And providing oversight and reporting, and then being able to adjust as risk profiles sort of change, or as the organization sort of transforms. So I wouldn't say that I'm a typical sort of GRC analyst, just because I do the virtual CISO stuff as well.
yeah.
And I do the GRC. So in some areas, they kind of overlap, especially if you're looking at like the governance aspect. But like, um, so yeah, I wouldn't say that it's typical the stuff that I do, but I like it. I'm very much energized. I told you before we jumped on, I was up till 3 a.m. because I was thinking about a particular type of problem that I'm trying to solve, which was all about it was all about building a strategic plan, having the right governance in place, and sort of building a framework for achieving an enterprise outcome. And I was just modeling that in my head, while I'm trying
Yeah,
to sleep, and
man.
then
That's too
getting it when
much.
I woke up, and then running into work was that was. And here I am now running on 3 hours of sleep, and obviously they can hear the passion in my voice that this is what excites me. So it just so happened that the thing that I wanted to get into, because I knew it was going to be a buzz, I just happened to really enjoy doing. So
Yeah, that's one thing people forget. Like, you have to be passionate about this. Otherwise, you just burn out and you won't make it. Like, if you're in it for the money, I don't think you could last. What is your view on that? Like, do you think
yeah,
people
well,
have to be passionate
yeah.
about this?
You gotta have, I think you've got to have your own personal vision for what you want. You need to march towards that each day. So you have a personal vision, and some of the stuff that I do because it's strategic. I have a vision for the organization. So that's what sort of keeps me going is that I have a vision of an end state. And sometimes when you get there, you then readjust your vision and you look, okay, well, what does it look like? So I have a vision of what I want to achieve. I then have, well, what's my mission to achieve that? So how am I going to achieve that vision? So having your own personal vision and mission statement is very important to maintain motivation and not and also to like in some aspects like manage burnout as well because your own personal vision statement for me it encompasses my mind, body, and soul, my
Mm.
business, my social, and my relationship. So being able to balance that on a quadrant is what enables me to keep going and have drive and making sure that I don't burn out because I've got to also maintain my social and my mind, body, and soul and my relationship outside of my business. My business is only one quarter of that. So if I have only my business, well, I don't really have much of a relationship. I don't have much of a social life, and I'm going to be obese and depressed. So, but if I only have my social, then I won't really have a business, and I'll be spending more time with my friends and my partner. So, like that's what works for me. And then being able to have like as well, like when things come up, what's important and urgent, what's important but it's not urgent, what's not important, urgent, and then what's not important was not urgent. So being able to like constantly categorize things and go, well, that's not really important, that's not urgent. So I'm just going to delete that from my mental space. And
Wow,
even
that's
like,
good stuff.
yeah, and even being able to like even if like we're having meetings and stuff, like I see a lot of people will try to like even if it's in an area that they don't really have a stake in. They'll really try to like, get invested and invest a lot of their time in that. For me, if I don't have like a real stake in things, or if there's nothing that's really like tied to what I'm trying to achieve for an organization or whatever, typically you might see that I just tune out because I'm just trying to give my brain a bit of a rest. So I don't, because
Yeah.
like for me that's not important, and like it's not like I don't have to deliver anything against that. So like I might just tune out a little bit and maybe just daydream a bit just to give my brain a bit of a rest before I need to accelerate again. So a lot of people where they find burnout is that they put everything in it. It's urgent and it's important. If the game is to maybe just keep that to like 30% and try to move as much as you can to that it's important and it's not urgent, so it can come later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in it
So
for the long haul, and so you have to manage it properly. But I have to add this. I mean, you had this time back then where you had to work, you were not earning any money. So there are seasons in our lives that we have to, I guess, we have to be obsessed about some stuff to get to
mm,
the next outcome. Right now, you're so well established, you can have that balance. But let's say for someone who is trying to get into the field, that's my view. I guess maybe you're against that view, but people need to work harder sometimes. Like it's not
yeah.
easy, especially with cybersecurity right now these days. Like it's very competitive.
Well, I think you've got to want it. Like, even some people that I mentor, it's about what's important for you. And I think like if you're wanting to get into cybersecurity, then, and you make that your mission, you got to make some sacrifices. I think a lot of people will go, oh, but I got my friends thing on. I've got to go and have beers with my friends. Well, you don't really want it that much because the reality is, I believe we only get one life. And what do you want personally for your own vision? And is what you're doing each day enabling that for you? So like, I'm a father now, so I've got a clear vision of what I want for my family, and I'm constantly evaluating whether or not things that I'm doing is going to help me achieve what I want for my family, because that's the most important is setting up is looking after my wife and my son. So that's number one. Everything else comes second.
Yeah.
So, being able to have like a business and do things on the side is what, like, I kind of value that more than having a social life. Like, I probably put the social life down a little bit more because, like, the reality is, like, yeah, I can catch up with people and I can do things, but I've got my own personal vision that I want to achieve, and I'm not going to achieve that if I'm going to the pub, having
Mm.
beers and talking, about what other people are doing. I'm just wasting my time. So, but once again, like, I do have a close group of friends that I confide in, but um, being able to sort of have that mindset is what's going to allow you to succeed, not just when you get into cyber, but then allow you to accelerate your growth in cyber. Because once you get in and you maintain that, that is what is going to allow you to accelerate, having clear vision and having the right people around you that want you to succeed. So there's some friends that I don't get to catch up with much at all, but these are the kind of friends that when I have a problem, they're here to help me. I have a friend coming around tomorrow. He's driving up and he's going to be helping me move. He's going to be helping me move stuff. So we're doing tip runs all day. So, you might find that if you're going down this journey, your friend circle might actually get quite smaller, but the quality of the
Smaller.
friends, the quality of the friends that you have will actually grow because you're now spending more time with the right people that actually care about what you want. If there's people that, if you feel like what you're doing, you feel uncomfortable talking about what you're doing in terms of your own personal vision around groups of people, then those people, I hate to tell you, are not your friends. They
Yeah.
do not want what is best for you. If you've got tall poppy syndrome, you go, yeah, I've won this contract and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and then they start to um, shoot you down. I hate to tell you, they are not your friends. They
Yeah.
are people that you associate with that you just have a common thing that you're doing, which is drinking piss. So
You have to
it's a
surround
hard
yourself with
truth,
the right people. Yeah.
very hard truth for people to follow. So I think you gotta want it. You gotta really, really, really want it. That's what got me into cyber. That's what enabled me to win my first contract, and that's what's enabled me to accelerate very quickly into doing executive level consulting at a reasonably young age.
Yeah.
And
That's
remember, I
amazing.
came from a non-IT background.
That's it, guys. So listen to Sam. Listen to what he's saying. Now, you mentioned something about mentoring people, all that stuff. Man, you're a busy guy. What are you doing? Tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
that
so I've
part.
got a cyber career accelerator. So you've got your own cyber excel academy. I think yours is more around the SOC focus,
Yeah,
sort of
technical stuff. Yeah.
very, very technical. So I think
Yeah.
this is where I'm different. It's really more about the governance, risk, and compliance aspects. I show people how to do IT audits. I show people like how to build their own labs. All the things that I've done to get me to where I am now, I have in my accelerator program. There is nothing else that's hidden. I do have one-on-one coaching, but really the coaching is there to push you and to hold you accountable and to make sure that you're hitting your targets. And then I'm effectively working for you. So if you have real-time problems coming up, then we solve them on the call and we keep moving forward. But um, so that's what I'm doing now. And I didn't mean to get into coaching. I just found myself naturally mentoring a lot of people that were looking to get into cyber. So they go talk to Sam. Oh, Sam's an IRAP assessor. Go talk to him. He loves helping people. And I think, I think there's enough love to go around in people getting into cyber. And I also want to make sure that when people get into cyber, if they're following my advice, they've got the right lens. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
people that say that oh, you've got to do all of this and blah 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, but there's people that are getting into cyber that aren't doing what you're saying. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna help them, and I'm gonna make sure that if they do get in, they've got the right mindset. So I had someone. This is when I knew I need to get into coaching. So I had a friend of mine. He sent a number. He goes, "Oh, do you mind if I send this guy's number to you. He's leading a GRC project for a school, and he's got no experience. He's coming from IT help desk, and they just he won
Wow.
the he won the work, and they dropped him in. He's panicking. So he said to me,
Imposter part you
yeah,
mentioned.
for him, I don't think he was expecting. I don't think he was expecting to. Sorry, he wasn't help desk. He was ex-military,
Mm.
but I don't think he was expecting to go um into that. Like he really like
Yeah,
hopefully like
serious stuff.
sort of ease in, but no, they dropped him on. He was a lead for a school, so they'd paid the money, and he's the one leading it. So I knew after that that the feedback I got was that 20 minutes with him, he'd learnt more than 4 weeks worth of studying. So that's when I said,
Yeah.
okay, I've got something. So it's not my opinion if I know something about a particular project. And then he said that he delivered that, and the client was said it's one of the best things they've ever seen. They said the deliverable was amazing, and it was based off the mindset, the framework, the approach, what to look for, how to communicate, what meetings to set up, all of that sort of stuff that we knocked over in 20 minutes. So that's when I knew that that I probably should start capitalizing and becoming a proper coach, and providing advice to people that are looking to get into cyber. So I have a lot of people that hit me up on social media and stuff. So that's where I moved into the one-on-one, and then I've launched my Accelerator program, and that's for people that can't afford my one-on-one. My one-on-one it is a premium service just because I'm taking away time from my wife and kid.
Yeah.
So I want to be paid for it, and I know what my worth is in terms of what I bill to my clients. So you're getting that high level um, sort of a guidance consulting for you. So, but the accelerator is really like to feed the demand of many people that are asking me and building a well structured sort of project. So like a one to many. So that's been the journey so far. Been on that journey for like 12 months now. It's been interesting because I've gone through product development, marketing, one-on-one
Different.
coaching. Also, learning how to be a coach as well is its own skill, and being able to demonstrate value and have wins for people as well. I'm really committed that if you're paying money for the one-on-one, uh, it's a two-way street. You've got to do exactly what I say,
Trust
because
the
I say the
process.
next call, if you haven't done it, then it's going to be a very expensive call for you, because I'm going to be telling you to do what I told you on the last call. So holding them accountable and pushing them, and being able to sort of guide them on the journey is what accelerates their pathway into cyber.
Yeah. And I always tell this to people, like with coaching, getting mentorship, investing, training, all that sort of stuff. People can do it themselves, but it's just a matter of how long it will take for you to get to the outcome. When you get mentorship and coaching from someone who's done it in the past, you're just buying his experience, so you're not making the same mistakes like trial and errors, things like that. Like that person that you mentioned, with just one advice from you, you saw how what happened. He was able to deliver
Oh,
projects
100%.
because he didn't have to do it
Well, because
himself.
the way that I look at it, I go, I'm working for you now. I'm working for you. Yeah, I'm your consultant. So I'm working for you. Um, so even I have a mentor. So like before I started the CISO route, I reached out to a global CISO, and I did his course, and I did the group calls, and I got a one-on-one, and even some of the areas that I wasn't too sure about with geez, I'm facing a really interesting problem with a really interesting situation. I'm just going to ring someone that's I'm a CISO, but this person's like
Next level.
they're some of the clients that they've had, we're talking in the billions of dollars. So I so even I do, and that's why I'm doing the cyber leadership program in August, because effectively, like once again, I want to ensure that I'm going down the right path. There might be things that I don't know, but how do I become more effective at delivering security outcomes? Because that return on investment will come back. All the money that I've invested in, like the 10 different cybersecurity certifications that I have, and the coaching and all that, I've made all of that money back, and I'm continuing each time I go for a new contract, increasing my rate, because
Of that thing.
my value is going up. So So you get the money back. The problem that exists at the moment in the market is that there's a lot of snake oil coaches out there. So they
Hmm.
go, oh, "What's your experience?" Well, I got coaching experience from being a coach. So like the reality is I'm still doing the cyber stuff. Like, I worked a full day today and we're jumping on this, but I still do this day in and day out, and I bring the insights and the knowledge and the expertise that I'm still upskilling in to people that are looking to get into cyber. So that's why it doesn't feel weird for me to tell people to do these things, because I'm really using the same model that I'm using right now.
Hmm.
Exactly the same. You're just at a
Yeah.
different level in your journey, but the model is the same. And it's what works, and it's what enables people to win high-paying contracts eventually. So it's like
Yes.
you got to get your foot in the door, but eventually you will start earning very large contracts that you never thought that you could ever win in your
Yeah.
life.
Exactly, man. Now with this accelerator program that you mentioned, who it's for? Like, can everyone join, and where people can find it
So
actually?
if you want to have a look at my accelerator program, check me out at cybersecurity.sam on TikTok, Instagram, and on Facebook, and or you can find me on LinkedIn as well, Samuel Romanov. You can either send me a message or you can have a look in my bio. I've got it's the cybergrowthacademy.com.
I'll put the
And
links actually in the description, so
yeah,
for
put the
people
links in
who
the
can
description.
check out properly.
You get quite a lot for this. I've spent the last 6 months working on this. A lot of time, a lot of hours. I've invested in graphic designers and a lot of different things. But you get everything that we've spoken about today. I walk you through how to do that, and I show you exactly how to do it. I have the templates. I give you everything. You should not leave that accelerator program. At the end of the cybersecurity accelerator program, you are a junior cybersecurity professional and you have an online presence that
Yep.
you will be getting noticed. If you follow what is in it, if you do the work, it's on you. This isn't your own investment in yourself, but if you do the work in there, I guarantee you, you will have testimonials and referrals coming in that you can put on
Okay.
your CV.
I
And
might
you will
as well
have
join, man.
Hey?
I will join as well, man.
Yeah, I can guarantee that. I guarantee it. If you do the work, if you do the
Yeah,
work, if you do the work.
that's
Yeah.
amazing, Sam. So everyone can join then. It's for everyone.
Everyone can join. I do recommend that you do have at least some knowledge in IT before you get started. Now you can buy it and you can get access, you can have a look, but we walk through data flow diagrams, we walk through threat modeling, we walk through high level risk assessments, we walk through how to do auditing, we walk through some of these things. So it's in your best interest to understand the technologies. Now you can buy the course, and then when you can Google it and you can research these things, but you will it will test your knowledge in IT. I will say that, and it comes back to what we spoke about earlier: is that you need to know IT, and you will see why you need to know it because we walk through how to do these things. Actually, I walk you through it. I walk you through the same methodology that I use, and you're taking all of that knowledge and expertise, and you're able to deliver that for pro bono services in return for testimonials and referrals.
Amazing. Sam, thank you so much for sharing your story and experience, man. This has been super insightful. I
Yeah.
think I'm sure a lot of folks are going to walk away with clarity and motivation to explore the GRC path, stuff like that. Appreciate
100%.
your
Well,
time, man.
it was a pleasure to be on, and like I said, if you want to send me a message, you can check the link. I'm sure he's going to add some magic to this. But for me, it was thank you for having me on and allowing me to share my story. And hopefully, out of this, I just hope that someone out there gets inspired to take the step. You got to take the plunge. And what I say to people is it's 1% every day. In 100 days, you are 100% better than what you were 100 days ago. So just start.
Amazing. So that was your last advice, right? Or
Just
do you have
start.
anything to share?
Nah, that's my last advice is there's nothing more that we can cover off that we've already spoken about, but now it's on you to just start and just think about it's 1% each day. And in 100 days, you'll be 100% better than what you are right now.
Amazing, man. That's good stuff. Thank you so much, Sam. I appreciate it.